With Drake Powell out the door, Carolina continues to look for a small forward to fill his role. Let's go get Luka. Not that one, though.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked on Tar Heels.
You are Locked on Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, May 15th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked on Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Carolina content every single day. It's all part of the Locked on Podcast Network. I want to thank you for making us your first listener watch to get your Thursday going the right way. Special shout out to all the everydayers here with us, all the members of the Locked on Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great Locked on Tar Heels insiders. It's great to be together. Joining me today is our guy, Coach Bill Robinson, the head coach of the Milligan University Buffaloes. You see, those of you watching on YouTube, you can see all the wonderful Buffalo artwork behind him there. Need some of those in my life. And also a 2-decade veteran of Carolina basketball school, Carolina's basketball camp in the summer, upcoming here not too far away. Excited for Coach to be there and reconnect with all his buds. Speaking of which, look at this bad boy or listen to me talk about it if you're listening. Carolina Basketball School, a book written by Coach Rob about the histories, stories, and drills associated with Carolina basketball camp would be a great summer read, especially to go with basketball camp as it's happening in the summer. You can find it on Amazon, or if you want a signed copy, get it from Coach directly. Great stuff there. Coming up on the show today, we're going to look at another small forward prospect. And yes, I know it's like Isaac. I'm sick and tired of the transfer portal. I'm sick and tired of all these names. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. But I think there is some good legitimacy to the young man we're going to talk about today. We're going to do that. We'll have a couple conversations. And then Coach and I are also going to talk about the balance of when you're starting to look at guys taking on the best player regardless of position versus being concerned more with fit and chemistry and how that all works together, how you sort through that as a coach. That's where we're headed today. Should be some fun conversations. And so, Coach, we dive into it. Luka Bogavac, which I would not guess that's how you pronounce his last name looking at the spelling. Folks, if you want to look him up, it's Bogavac, like Bogavac. That's how you might think it is phonetically. He's 6'5", 200 pounds. He is from Montenegro. I'm not going to try to pronounce this town he's from in Montenegro. And Coach, that brings me, I've got a little trivia for you here. Can you, bonus points, can you name a country or the 1C that borders Montenegro? And I will tell you that I could not if you were asking me. And I'll say this, I went and looked at a map. There are 5 countries that border Montenegro and 1C. Do you have any guesses?
I would have no clue. Mediterranean Sea. I have no idea.
It's close. And folks, behind the scenes, I did not tell Coach we were headed here. No, it's the Adriatic. Yes, there you go.
Okay. 2.
We'll take it. Yeah, so it's right across the Adriatic Sea from Italy. You know, Italy comes down as a boot. There's the Adriatic Sea just northeast of that, and then you get the coastline of Montenegro. The countries are Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Kosovo, Albania, and then Croatia. You know, Croatia comes down the coast, and it's got that little, like, part of land that's not even connected to the country. And that's the part that joins up to Montenegro. This has been your geography segment with Bill Robinson and Isaac Schade. Thanks for playing along. Coach, so Bogavac will be 22 in August. He's 21 right now. He's already played 4 professional seasons in ABA Liga, the last 2 for SC Derby. And Coach, that's where I want to start. You and I were talking beforehand, and we need to go figure this out. But you're starting to see some of these guys that have played professionally over in Europe or Asia or something like that come over. And what's intriguing is that this young man, Bogavac, isn't just playing, U18. He's playing against dudes that have already completed college and gone. I was just looking at some of the top scorers in his league. One of them being like Filip Petrusev, for example, that played at Gonzaga. How does that benefit Bogavac as opposed to other recruits in that he's already played against grown men?
We got one from Bosnia. We're recruiting a kid from Serbia right now, and then also a kid from Turkey. So, I mean, the international recruiting, if it's getting down to our level, it's everywhere, obviously. But if you have a kid like this, signed at 18, He's played against men. He's learned not just about how to play the game on the court, but how to become a professional off the court. And that's a big deal. How do you handle your business? And you get somebody like that, they're a little bit more mature. If they've been a professional and had to deal with the things that they have to deal with, I don't think going to class is that hard. They actually can see it as a privilege instead of not so much a have to, but a get to. Thing with it. So I think there's a lot to do with that. Obviously, the physical nature of it, and they train way different over there than we train here. So to have a 3-hour practice, you're not going to blink an eye at things like that, or to have a double session, have two practices in a day. He'll welcome situations like that. So I think it's a huge benefit if you get somebody like that who's been there and done that. So I'm excited to really get a chance to get to know more about this young man.
Yeah, I am too. And by the way, we this has been confirmed, his recruitment by Carolina from multiple sources. It sounds like, perhaps it's been something behind the scenes that they've been tracking down for a while. And so there's some real legitimacy to this thing. Coach this past year is averaging 14.9 points, 3.6 rebounds, 2.3 assists, shooting 45% from the field, 39.9. We're rounding that up to 40% from three, and 87%, from the free throw line. And Coach, I remember, talking about Ivan Karchenkov and one of the big, is he does so much well, but he wasn't a shooter. That's not a thing with Kovacs, man. He is filling it up at a 40% clip from three, again, against grown men. Had a season high 27 points back on April 25th. And so, Coach, when you look at that, those stats, when you watch some tape on what he brings to the table, what excites you about Bogavac's game?
Yeah, I didn't know anything about him at all until you said something and said some film. And the thing that I love about him is his size and his decision making. He's not really a 2. He's not really a 1. He's a true combo, but he can play some point guard, and he likes the ball in his hands. I think he makes great decisions, but he can also shoot. He can shoot with range. I still think coming off ball screens and planting at foot and shooting at 3 down the line is something that kids don't really work on a whole lot today. To be able to get that shot off quickly, he does that really, really well. And he's more athletic than he looks. I mean, he can get up there, he can for the rim. He's not one-dimensional anyway. But again, he's very talented, and I think he'd be a great addition depending where they would need him. If he is at the 3, I think he'd be fine. But I think he could play 3 positions.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, because I think you look at what he plays currently in Europe, and you look at, he's slotted as a point guard, shooting guard. But I mean, you look back to 2 seasons ago, Cormac Ryan at 6'5" is playing 3 for Carolina alongside Elliot Cadeau and RJ Davis. And so I like that positional flexibility in the backcourt. And if there are moments when, I actually want to save what I'm about to say there for the second conversation of how he fits with the roster. So I'm going to press pause on what I was about to say. But yeah, his ability to play up and down the backcourt is a real plus, especially given that, as just to hit on it again, he's been doing it with grown men who can probably push him around a little bit. And so, Coach, another thing that I like about watching his film is, as you said, he's a little sneakily athletic, can get up, get a board, rip and run a little bit. I like seeing him score in transition. It seems like he's got a real kind of bulldog mentality going to him. Do you catch that assessment as well?
No, he seems like he's a real high competitor. He wants to win. It seems like he's very willing to do whatever it takes to win. Looking at some of his stats, it's not like he had huge games, but he was very consistent with what he did. And to me, that means he's not really looking out for him. He wants, it's more the we than the I. And I think that's what they're looking for right now. They want somebody who can come in and not necessarily feel like they have to carry the load, but somebody who can just distribute, can shoot, can make great decisions. The decision making and the ball movement, that he can cut and he can move without the basketball, just the way the European play, and he can do all of those things. So again, it seems to me from the outside looking in, this would be a perfect piece to add right now.
Coach, anything from watching him that you're like, yes, perfect piece, but I do think he should work on this? Is there anything that jumps off on the negative or critical side?
I don't think he's a banger. I don't think he's the physical side of it. I think he get a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. I'm a little concerned, obviously, about how quickly he can fit in if he's not here now. When the summer hits is really the most important time because classes are, I mean, they're taking summer classes, but it's 1 or 2 classes. It's minimal, and they're spending a lot of time in the gym together. The culture thing, I think, is big for me. He's got if he does end up coming, I think he's got to get here soon so that he doesn't miss out on any of those things.
And that's a great point and a great segue also to the rest of the conversation we're going to have next about him, because I want to talk about how he could fit with the roster. Coach mentioned culture, and that's both team culture and literally American culture. How can he acclimate himself to this brand new country he would be coming to? Those are the conversations we're going to have coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Wayfair. The days are getting longer, the weather is finally warming up, and people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. So whether you're working with a big backyard, a small balcony, whatever it is, it doesn't matter because Wayfair has got everything you need to make it feel more like you. In fact, at my house, Shady Acres is what we call it. We literally have just been cleaning off our back porch because we need to refresh stuff, get some new furniture, get new string lights. We like to keep string lights out there. So I've been checking out Wayfair's website to see what I might find that would fit our needs and our desires. And that's what's cool, because Wayfair has a massive selection of outdoor essentials to make it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they've got it all. And I like this, at prices that fit your budget. Grab a new patio set and some string lights from Wayfair and just help extend your outdoor space. It's insane how much those string lights can help change the way a space feels. I love this mix, and I love that the delivery is free and hassle-free, even for the bigger items. So go check that out. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online. This summer, get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. All right, today on the show, Coach Rob and I are talking about Luka Bogavac from Montenegro that plays in the ABA League over there in Europe. And what we want to start talking about now is how he fits with the team. And as part of that conversation, Coach, you talked at the end of the last segment about him getting here as quickly as possible because of how long it takes, from a chemistry standpoint and stuff for a team to really acclimate, right? We've seen this in the transfer portal era, where teams aren't really becoming teams until January or something like that. And you really can't evaluate who they truly are until conference season, basically. Now, Coach, part of the dynamic with getting a player over from international is behind the scenes, you've got all sorts of headaches and red tape and stuff like that you got to handle. So, Coach, how does that side of it factor into how he might fit with the roster?
Yeah, it's way more complicated than we think. And that we think that we can make it a lot easier and that it's just going to be like a normal recruit, but it's not. Especially when you're dealing with contracts, you're dealing with teams, and there's so much stuff that we just don't understand. So the hurry up and wait is the kind of the motto when it comes to recruiting some of these guys. But I do think it's important. Obviously, you have a kid that wants to be here. That should help the process. But I'm really, again, we have no idea what's going on. We have no idea if he's even the guy. But at the same time, it's just one of those things we just got to continue to be patient about and hope for the best.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned culture. And I think when you said it, you were specifically meaning culture of the team and how he would fit with that. But I expanded it to say like American culture and what it would mean to come over and live in a new country, essentially as a foreign exchange student, more or less, right? Even though he's been a professional basketball player, so he's traveled and he gets all that side of things. But Coach, I know that you at Milligan have had multiple international players come in. How is that process for acclimating them to American and East Tennessee culture?
Yeah, one of the good things we had, the 3 New Zealand kids that we had that graduated this spring, they were here together. They had their own little support group. So that was important. Who's he going to hang with? Who's going to be his, if Luka did come, who's going to be his small group, his guys that he goes out and gets wings with at night? That's why it's so important to be there early. We like our recruits to come work camp. Come out June, July. Then they come, they get to be on campus, they get familiar with the surroundings, they get to know where the best wings are, they get to know where to get the oil change in their car, if they have a car. They get to know where Walmart is and how to get everything. And then by the time classes do start and life really gets going quickly, they're comfortable. They already know where everything is, the anxiety's down, take a lot of that stress away. So I think that's why it's important to get them here quick. I think that's really important if they take a beach trip again, which they've done the last couple of years. He needs to be on that beach trip. He needs to be, playing football on the beach and swimming in the ocean and hanging out, playing cards at night. So the guys can get to hang out with him and get to know who he really is. And I think those are the moments that are most important in this whole process. Those are the things that will, when February and March and hopefully into April, those times are set earlier back in the fall and the summer.
Yeah, man, that's true. And so I was trying to look back to remember. I feel like it was late July when they've done that the past couple of years. And so that's kind of the target date there. Is would love to have him for camp, but if not for camp, and if he was coming, right, like I can't get ahead of myself there, then you would want him definitely by the time that beach trip, man, because that just cements relationships in a different way. Now, let's talk. We're talking off the court, Coach. Let's go on the court. As you look at what Carolina has, in the backcourt, you think about Kyan Evans, Seth Trimble. You've got the two incoming freshmen in Isaiah Dennis and Derek Dixon. You've got Jaden Young coming over from Virginia Tech. Jonathan Powell. And so that's kind of like your backcourt, but also the front court factors into it as well. But Coach, as you look at that grouping of guys, if Bogavac were to come, where do you think he best fits?
I think he fights with Jonathan Powell for time at the 3. That's how I see it right now. I think I had Drake, slotted obviously as a starter at the 3. I think he just kind of slots in that same spot and make it competitive. If you're going to be competitive against others, you got to be competitive among yourselves. That's a long, time saying we've had, but you've got to be able to fight every day in practice for a spot. I don't think you can tell either one of those guys how you're going to come here and start, but you got to be competitive, and that's where I see him most at that 3, really being able to compete. Again, at the 1 and the 2, there's a lot of guys there right now. I don't see him having to play the 2. But man, you could go big if you really wanted to and slide him down there if you needed him. But I think that's what all that preseason time is, to see exactly what I think. I love the ball in his hands. I think that's the easiest way to say it. I love for him to be able to make decisions. So, I could see them if the pressure in the backcourt, if somebody says, hey, we're going to take the point guard away and really put pressure, he can bring the ball up the floor and initiate the offense too.
And I think that's critically important when you're switching from Elliot Cadeau to Kyan Evans with some Seth Trimble mixed in, is if you have, somebody that's not just a pure point guard in the Elliot Cadeau, Kendall Marshall mold, that you have other guys that can capably handle the ball. And I'm not saying he's going to be like a point forward, but to your point, man, I love seeing him leading the break, like getting out in transition and running with reckless abandon. And I think that can open things up, especially the fact that he can shoot at a high percentage from outside is going to continue to create more spacing and opportunities for other players. Coach, is there anything you think about of how what he does fits in with the potential front court?
I think the ability for him at his size to be able to switch and guard multiple people too. If he needed to guard a 4, can he do that? I don't know. I don't have enough film. I haven't been able to sit down and watch a whole game. But again, at that level in Europe, they're switching things a lot more. Just the way the philosophy that they play over there. So he's got to be used to even guarding the post a little bit if he needed to. He's got some length. He's got the athleticism like we talked about. He is 6'5". He goes 200. There's enough there, I think, would allow him to be able to maybe switch 2 through 4. Maybe not on the quickest of the ones, but I think maybe 2 through 4, maybe 2 through 5. He could be able to switch and play a lot of different types of defenses if they wanted to do that.
Yeah. Coach, good news. Literally, as you were talking, I texted you a YouTube link of a full game of his team, so you can watch that later. We were plug for the Locked On Tar Heels Discord. We were sharing some links in there this morning of different things, and one of those was a full game from his team there, and so from SC Derby, so you can go check that out. It's going to be really interesting. And I've watched more than highlights, but not that full game yet. So I'm really interested and intrigued to dive more into him as well. So if there continues to be more developments with Bogavac, we will continue to talk about it and look at it. But Coach, ultimately, I agree with you. Like, I think he could be a slam dunk fit for Carolina, but got to get him to Chapel Hill. I think that's a critical key part of this equation. And so we'll continue to track it and see what happens next. Now, on yesterday's show, we talked about Boogie Fland, the Arkansas transfer who was in the NBA draft process, pulled out, and is now considering college options. Could North Carolina make a run at him was what we looked at yesterday. I don't want to talk about that again, but what I do want to talk about is an angle from Coach of, we just talked about how full the actual backcourt is. Is it worth bringing in a high-level talent, or do you have to consider fit and roster construction as well? I want to get Coach's take on that coming up in just a second. Coach, I love the conversations about roster construction and fit and talent and all that, because I think it's just such a critical part now in this transfer portal era of what coaches have to do. You understand this very well yourself, obviously, because you're always dealing with it. I was talking to a D2 coach last night at my son's baseball game. He was like, Isaac, I finally just finished my roster. And I was like, congrats to you. And I shook his hand. And I know that's the envy of a lot of coaches right now. But Coach, here's the question. There's this thing, you know, like if you're in the NBA draft and you're trying to decide who to take, and there's this conversation of, do we take the best talent regardless of position or fit, or do we look more specifically at fit and chemistry and roster construction because that's more important than the talent? That's the question I want you to address. How do you approach that conversation?
Yeah, the number one factor in the ball game level is talent. You have to have talent. The more talent you have, the better. But you do want to be conscious of, especially in today's era, how you handle the team that you have now. I had a conversation with one of the staff members at Carolina a couple of years ago in the summer, and they were hesitant to bring any more talent in because they didn't have everybody that were, I guess, under not contract, but in situations where they couldn't leave. He didn't want to bring somebody else in and in the middle of summer have somebody decide they wanted to leave. That's something they have to be very conscious of as well. I think you have a conversation with your staff. Let's go through different scenarios. You know, here's, you know, A, this is what happened. Here's plan B. Here's plan C. What happens if somebody goes down with an injury? What happens if somebody, you know, if something happens, gets sick or whatever? We had a kid get mono a couple years ago, miss a whole season. So if plan A works, maybe we don't need anybody else. If plan B, maybe we do. But if you get to plan C and there's still some questions about what the roster is going to look like, go get another guy. You may have to go get one more and just explain to the guys, hey, this is Carolina. This is competitive. It's not unlike Hubert called me a couple years ago about a point guard who reclassed, and he was wanting my input about whether, you know, does Elliott come in? Do we not bring Elliott in? How are we going to affect? How's that going to affect RJ? How's it going to affect everybody else? So those are conversations that you have to have with your staff and sit there and say, you know, where do you think we are? Are we good with this, you know, Kyan Evans and Isaiah Dennis? And are we set? You know, is that, you know, if something happens with one of those guys that go down with an ankle injury for a couple games, you know, are we okay with what we have being able to fill in until that guy gets back? Those are the questions you got to talk about your staff and really sit down and get serious about it and figure out exactly what, you know, direction you need to go into.
I love the idea of like literally playing out scenarios to their end, right? Like, what is the worst case scenario for our team? What's the best case scenario for our team? Do you bring like if it's last year, would you bring RJ into those conversations? If it's this year, do you bring Seth into those conversations and like, hey, Seth, you got the pulse of the team. How would a move like this affect the locker room? Or is that just not something you want to even remotely put on your players?
I don't. And I don't want them to feel like they have that kind of input. It's back to what we talked about a little bit. You may want to have them have an opinion, but they don't get a vote. We've talked about that whole concept. But I think with RJ, maybe, because he had been around so much and he'd been such a big part of everything. And I don't think you can do that with a guy who's only been there 2 or 3 years. again, you have to know your team and who your leadership is, and get a better feel for it. But I think it's your staff. I think it's with Carolina staff being as big as it is, you've got enough opinions as it is without having to bring a player's opinion in. But they got GAs, and I mean, I would even go down. You can talk to the strength coach and to the athletic trainer. Talk to Doug and see how they feel about different things. They have a totally different perspective. I always like to talk to Doug. Doug's a great guy. When I tore my Achilles and went to camp a couple of days or 2 weeks after having my surgery, he helped me a lot get through that 2-week stretch. But he's like the bartender. They all talk to, when they're in there getting their ankles taped and they're getting their treatments, they open up and tell them kind of what's going on. So Doug can be a great resource if the coaching staff will just ask him. Yeah, he's got the pulse of everything. He really does. So it's always good to get those guys involved in decision making. Again, they can have an opinion, they may not have a vote, but they can at least give you better insight on what's going on.
That's a good word, Coach. And last thing on that, and then I know we got something we want to talk about a Milligan alum. Is it appropriate? Like we're talking about Boogie Fland, is it appropriate at all to reach out to his high school coaches or to Coach Cal or others and just kind of get a better sense of who he is as a teammate, or is that just off the table?
No, definitely. I mean, you want to find out as much as you can about everybody, and he may have an idea where he's going anyway, and it might be to the point where, again, the way the world is now, the budget of NIL money might not be enough to attract somebody like that at this point of the conversation, but at least get a feel for it, find out what's going on. I think that's what Jim Tanner and those and Buzz Peterson and those guys have resources and be able to talk to, whether it's their agent or their coaches or whoever, to be able to at least get a little bit of a better glimpse of what exactly is going on with his situation. He'd obviously be a great talent to add. Not sure that it's enough to get everybody upset with how the state of the team is right now. He'd have to be really, really good.
Have to be really, really good. Good insight, Coach. I'm so grateful to that, because those are just things, logistics that I don't even operate within. And so it's so good to get that insight from somebody that legitimately does it. And so thank you for that. Speaking of players that you deal with, got some great news about a Milligan Buffalo alum that I know you're excited to share. Would you fill us in on that?
Yeah, Aaron Leverty. He's been playing pro for about 6 years now, and he's been at the third level in France and got moved up to the second level in France this year. And I think the idea was, well, we'll move him up and then, kind of see how he does. Well, he had an unbelievably great year this year and just got moved up to the top level in France. He's a great kid. He's from the Bahamas. Averaged 5 points a game as a sophomore for me. Averaged 19 and 12 or 13 as a senior. Was an NAI All-Star out in Kansas City, and just a great young man. So excited for him. And for him to advance up to that level is just unheard of. He was 6'6.5" when he got here, graduated at 6'9". He looks completely different now. He's got the full beard and he's put muscles on. He looks great, but he still comes back in the summer. Will work out with us a little bit, but for him to be able to advance up there is for us is just it's a huge, huge accomplishment.
Man, that's great. That's great for Milligan, like you said, and I know it's neat for you to have one of your pupils getting to the highest levels. Really neat stuff. So excited to track how Aaron does there at the highest levels of the French leagues. Great stuff. Folks, thanks so much for being with us on the show today. I want to remind you again about Coach's book, Carolina Basketball School. Look at that beautiful human being, Roy Williams, on the cover there. What a guy. What a coach. If you've not bought it, again, you can find that on Amazon or reach out to Coach directly if you want to buy one and get it signed. If you've not if you've not subscribed to the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, either on video or audio, man, it's super easy to do, helps you stay connected, and truthfully helps grow the reach of the show as well. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, man, that is a community of over 500 Carolina fans that we're talking all day, every day. We'd love to have you in there. That link is in the show notes. Absolutely free to join. Also, if you want to go deeper with the show, Locked On Tar Heels Insider Program is a great thing to be part of as well. That link is also in the show notes. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll be back again tomorrow to set up the weekend. Man, men's golf is going right now, literally as we talk in the regionals. They've made a massive comeback today. Can't wait to see how they finish it off. They're tied for fifth. They got to finish fifth to move on to nationals. We'll see if they can complete that. I'll have that update for you on the Friday show. All right, guys, we'll talk again then. But for now, peace.